AITA for wearing the joke bikini my friend got me? So it was my birthday couple months ago. Had a party. Got some gifts. My friend Mandy for me a super cute bikini. I liked it. Said thanks. She had ripped the tags off, but whatever. Anyway, went to the community pool with my roommate. Wore bikini. Got in the water. Roommate immediately is like, girl. I look and see that this bikini is now kinda see-through. Haha, good joke, Mandy. Anyway, Mandy invited me over to her place to hang out with her and her BF and a few others. Most leave, and we're still hanging out. I'm like, hey, what if we get in your hot tub? I go change after them and meet her BF in the hot tub. She's getting new drinks. I hop in. Immediately, he's looking at my chest. I pretend I don't notice and just make small talk. She comes out a few minutes after and just looks in shock. Eventually gets in. Is that the one I bought? Yeah, I love it. I wear it everywhere. Make up some stuff about how I wore it to the beach, some party with lots of guys, etc. And she's just like, oh, we're in the tub for 20 to 30. Eventually get out and change. She approached me after and was like, I'm sorry, thought you'd notice. But it goes kinda see-through. I'm like, yeah, I know. Why do you buy me a ducking see-through bathing suit? She's like, it's a joke. Wait, you knew? So you just spent last 30 flashing my BF on purpose? I reply, I'm just wearing my birthday gift from her. Anyway, AITA. Update: would I be the butthole for planting prickly bushes in my front yard to keep the neighbors' kids from my property? I was asked for an update on /r/m with asshole /comments /g31 in 1q /with About a week after my post, I planted a wall of blackberries and raspberries at the two sides of my garden, facing the driveway, about 30 centimeters from the edge, so no overhanging branches. On the other side of the berry wall, I planted lots stuff like strawberries and tomatoes. To reach the tomatoes and strawberries from the driveway, you have either go through the fruit bushes or walk up to my house. Walk about 2 m along the side of the house and my windows, and then walk into my actual garden. Not something you do by mistake. For about 2 weeks, it was somewhat quiet, but I still found the kids on my driveway every single day. As far as I know, they did not enter the garden, and I hadn't noticed them walking around my house anymore, so I figured the bushes were working. About 1 week ago, berry season started, and my bushes are now full of raspberries, and there's lots of strawberries as well. The neighbors noticed. First, I caught the boys picking and eating raspberries, so I told them off and dropped them off at home. Told their mom I caught them stealing. That's how I see it, even though it's fruit, and that I'd call the cops next time. She huffed and told me to grow up, but took the boys inside anyway. After that, it was quiet up until yesterday afternoon, when I went out for a while and found the dad and his 2 sons right in the middle of my garden when I returned, clearing my bushes and plants. I didn't even confront them, just called the cops from a distance as they hadn't noticed me yet, and started filming them after making the call. Luckily, 2 cops showed up after 10 minutes or so, and they confronted the neighbor as they were still picking berries. They told them they were trespassing and that the berry picking was in fact considered stealing and that I could press charges. For the first time, I noticed a bit of fear in my neighbor. He was having trouble finding his words and kept looking back at his house, I guess hoping his wife would show to yell at the cops. They all went inside with the cops, so I just went home as well. After a while, the cops came by and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I asked them if they felt like they scared the neighbor enough to stay away. I got a small smile and yes about him, but the wife had just kept shouting at them and her husband about the little bitch living next door. I told them no for now, asked them if I'd be allowed to get an extra camera set up on the wall between my garden and the road to cover the entire front garden plus driveway. They said that's allowed as long as it's on my side of the wall. So, now I'm getting an extra camera installed. One neighbor knows I'm done messing around, but his wife isn't there yet, and if I ever catch any of them again, the cops will be called and possible charges will follow. Am I the butthole for dropping our dinner on the ground and walking out when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight? BDCH?" I was over my boyfriend's apartment this weekend and I was cooking dinner because he was studying for exams. I made pasta and a chunky sauce with meatballs and veggies. I told him dinner was ready and he goes, "What's for dinner tonight, BH?" With like a lot of emphasis on the last word. I was fed up. I'd had a pretty rough day with work, and I have some awfully bad associations with that word being used by other people in my life who were pretty abusive. So I was so irritated that I dropped the pot of pasta sauce I'd been carrying right on the ground and was like, well, nothing's for dinner tonight now. And I better not hear you using that word again. It's for the girls. He was freaking out about how sauce had landed on his rug, and he even said, "You're seriously acting like a bitch right now." I didn't know what else to call it. I just walked out and got takeout for myself and went to my friend's house. She thought it was funny, but my boyfriend was furious. He kept texting and calling and sending me voice memos trying to explain that saying, "What's for dinner tonight, BDCH?" was a TikTok trend, and that he was just quoting something as a joke to put on TikTok. I thought that was the shittiest excuse ever. It doesn't matter if he saw it as a joke or stole the joke. It was still disrespectful, but it didn't change the fact he thought that crap was funny to demean me when I was trying to do him a favor. Like hell, I came over when he was studying to make a home-cooked dinner and he decides it's time for jokes? So I put my phone on Don't Disturb for the night and split a bottle of wine with my friend and her roommate. The next morning, he was sending me angry texts demanding I clean his rug because he was too busy with exams to do it. I was shocked he left it overnight. That's disgusting. I texted him back saying, "Yeah, so that's the BTCH tax, honey, leave me alone till you're ready to handle your own cooking and cleaning because this BTCH isn't anymore. Also, it's vile you left that soaking in all night." He called me and told me that he was okay with doing his own household work, but I did throw a full pot of sauce at the ground, so that's on me to clean up. I told him, "Yeah, no, I'm not comfortable doing chores for you if you see me like your BTCH." He told me he didn't, and it was just a trend. And I got pissed off he was playing that TikTok trend BS excuse again, and I told him, "Well, I'm starting a trend called saucing, where as a little joke people throw pasta sauce around. You can't be mad because it's just a little trend, a little jokey joke, just a little prank, bro." He got really pissed off and hung up on me, and now I'm seriously wondering if this dumb freaking TikTok joke is going to be the end of things between us. Am I the butthole for how I reacted when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight, BDCH?" Edit to address a comment I've gotten a lot, and I don't have time to reply to every time. But did you tell him not to call you a bitch? Like, how would he know otherwise? Honestly, if someone has gotten to the age of 30 and not realized that women, as a whole, do not like having demeaning slurs used against them, they're beyond my help. This isn't something that needs to be told. I shouldn't have to go through life like, "Hey man, just in case you were thinking I might like demeaning slurs against my gender used on me. I don't actually." And if you were about to comment something like that, let me just tell you in no uncertain terms, women do not like being called bitches by men. Do not call women bitches. If you needed to be told that is unkind, consider yourself officially told. Now you have no excuse to not understand. Am I the butthole for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance/college money? Context: my sister, F27, and I, 18F, lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mom was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left money, inheritance, for me and sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now cause my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be doctor but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about dad and mock his illness and make a scene at his funeral, only because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot lately, venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out the hospital for heart problems and in need for a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I end up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery and she'd pay back in less than a year. I felt uneasy cause if I give her money from my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a year gap, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority and I needed to help because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me this is what I was saying no to. A happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish, not good aunt and sister. I asked my friend and he said let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery and warned me if I give them money, I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. Am I the butthole for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mom standing there with her luggage? I F30 don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do, and sometimes even copying me, like that one time when she literally dye-eyed her hair purple just like mine, and when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So, anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country, tourism in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum, said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say, "Fine, I will tell her to stop it because we won't take her." Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came, and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me, and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mom was there anyway, and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him he and his mom could still go and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom, it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me, then called my family to tell them that the trip was canceled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy. Did I really overreact? Am I the butthole for getting up from my chair in the middle of Christmas dinner and shouting, "Shut the fudge up about my body, yeah," in response to my husband's observation? So, ever since I had my son months ago, my husband has started making indirect comments about my body. He never says any hurtful words, but I find his observations, as he calls it, hurtful. For example, he'd see me wearing an old top and say, "Oh, that top used to look good on you, but not anymore though." Or when he looks at my waist and says, "Wow, didn't know your waist could get this wide." Basically passive stuff that I tried to ignore till it extended to friends and family. For your information, this went on for months and months and months. We went to Christmas celebration at his family's home. My sister-in-law complimented my floral maxi dress and my husband said, "I agree, it looks nice on you, though I have to admit that your waist could get smaller than this." Awkward silence took over. I was absolutely fuming, and this was my last straw. So I got up from my chair in the middle of dinner and shouted at the top of my lungs, "Shut the fudge up about my body." He was absolutely speechless as his family stared while some others tried to get me to calm down, but situation got more tense and dinner ended up being cut short and my husband storming off to his friend's place to spend the night upon leaving a very nasty text saying I embarrassed him and made a scene over an observation he made. He called me childish and told me to get therapy for my insecurities instead of verbally abusing him and scaring his family. Now I feel like an absolute idiot butthole and like I ruined Christmas for him and everybody with my oversensitivity. Am I the butthole? Am I the butthole for storming off from my sister's wedding after she denamed my son? I'm a 45 years oldo single father of 3. Their mom died 10 years ago. I have 3 sons, 17 years oldo Andrew, 15 years oldo Connor, and 14 years oldo Max. Connor was born female. He is trans. He came out as trans 5 years ago and has now socially transitioned, not yet physically. My sister, 38F, just got married. Me and my sons were also invited. My family has known that Connor is trans for 2 years now. Some have adjusted well, some not so much. My sister is pretty indifferent about it. Her wedding was really super well organized to the last detail. She wanted all the men to wear shirt plus tie and then women's sundresses. I texted her a picture of our outfits the day before the wedding, and she said, "Where's Nia's dress?" I was a bit surprised and told her not to deadname my son and that he'll be wearing a shirt and tie like the rest of men there or we aren't coming. She said fine, and that was it. At the reception, my sister got mad that Connor was wearing a tie, but didn't say much after that. When we sat down at our table, the card, Nia, I went to my sister, and she said she used their real name. I told her me and the boys are leaving, and she told me, "Don't you dare cause a scene at my wedding. Nia can be a guy any other day." I called her a bigot, and we left. My family says I ruined her wedding.